FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
So what do we know about these traits? Well, what we know is that abilities play a very important role. What's the role of schooling? If we start looking at ability gaps between blacks and whites, between the affluent and the less affluent, what do we find? Well, we find that these gaps emerge, as I said before school begins. What's the role of schooling in eliminating or creating these gaps? We know that American schools are very unequal. And so you think, well, school systems probably widen these gaps. The amazing thing is that if you look at the gaps that children have in their test scores at age 4, before they enter the public schools, and then you look at the gaps between those same children at age 18, the gaps at 18 are already there at age 4, long before schools enter. Schools do very little to either increase or decrease those gaps. So even though much American policy is predicated on the fact that schools can solve our problems, schools are neither creating nor reducing those problems. It's not to say that the role of schools can't be improved, but it also is the case, and this is a fact that was pointed out long ago by a famous sociologist at my institution, a good friend of mine, James Coleman, who pointed out that, in fact, if you look at school performance, the major determinant of school performance is not teacher-pupil ratios or teacher salaries. It's much more the family and the family environment that supports the children in the school. And in fact, the family environment that supports the child even before the child enters school. So what we've learned then is even though so much American policy is focusing on trying to reduce classroom size or reduce college tuitions, that these factors will play only a minor role. Let me just give you an example. I did a recent study asking what happens if we reduce classroom size in the United States. Suppose that we actually cut the number of pupils in a classroom down by 5, a huge reduction. There's no question that test scores go up among children, no question whatsoever. But if you do the economic analysis and say, okay, test scores go up, earnings go up, employment goes up, that's all a good thing. But what happens is that also teacher salaries go up, and expenses in school system, and training teachers, that goes up. If you do a benefit cost analysis, you find that the rate of return on that activity is negative. It would be better to give the children money than to actually invest in reducing classroom size. This is the emphasis. No, you laugh, but in fact, if you go out, I bet in every election, local election and national elections, even the Obama administration has been fixated on this idea. And many, many people are fixated because we think of the schools. It's traditional in American society to think of the schools as being very healthy and producing what we've seen. But what we've taken for granted in American society is the health of American families. And that's what's being challenged and what's changing.